Welcome to Swoop Podcast, and here are your hosts, Dante Fantuzzi and Josh Sanchez.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Swoop Podcast. It's your host, Dante Fantuzzi, and I'm here with
Josh Sanchez.
Josh. Let that sink in real quick. Everybody that's listening, let that sink in real quick. It's been a full 3 months.
Swoop is back.
A full 3 months. No podcast, no nothing. And there's just been so much drama, saga, whatever you want to sum it up in the sports world.
Especially in the NBA and as well as the football. We've seen, we even do our finals predictions.
It was just...
the last podcast we did was MJ or LeBron.
I can't even remember what our last topic was.
And that was early May.
Now we're in late August, literally the last day of August.
Well, it wasn't our fault, though.
It wasn't. I mean, to all of our fans and viewers, we did try and meet up this... Well, we did. It was just, unfortunately, we couldn't get access into the room. We couldn't get access to all of our stuff. But, I mean, it's just a case of Sarah. It's fine. We're here. We're back. It's just so much to talk about.
A lot to talk about because the NBA Finals happened. We saw Kevin Durant emerge.
That right there is just one full season of basketball wise, reality. That's just one full season of reality TV in Cleveland.
Yep.
Just Cleveland by itself. I mean, I know we're gonna talk about that, but it's just one full season right there of reality TV that's just expanded throughout the course of the
another
NBA.
Thing we missed the NBA draft. We missed Chris Paul coming to the Rockets. We missed Paul George going to OKC.
Hold on. The blockbuster trade the Sixers made to get the number one pick.
Oh yeah, yep. To move up from 3 to 1.
It was just so much that happened. Oh man, you know what? Let's just quit the small talk. Let's get straight into it.
Let's get into it.
Our first topic, we're gonna talk about this Kyrie Irving trade.
Yeah, recently, I'll do a little introduction. Recently, with the NBA, we have seen this deal. Kyrie Irving was going to get traded to the Celtics for Isaiah Thomas, a Brooklyn Nets first-round pick. This foreign player, his name is, I believe, Ante Zeek. Zeek.
Yes.
And Jay Crowder, a very good role player. But the problem was Isaiah Thomas went through his physical earlier this week or late last week, and there were some concerns with his hip. And Danny Ainge said the reason why he wanted to trade Isaiah Thomas was because of his hip injury that he suffered in the Eastern Conference Finals last year.
I don't mean to cut you off or anything like that. I just necessarily can't agree with that if you were talking about not bringing him back before the hip injury. That was just in the conversation before he even had the hip injury.
I know. I'm just giving you a little summary before I get started on my opinion, because Isaiah Thomas, I feel like the reason why Danny Ainge wanted to get rid of Isaiah Thomas was because I believe right now he's 28, right? 28. Yeah. So and he wants a max deal. So if he's going to be 29, 30 years old and get that max deal,
I mean, honestly, if you want to actually think about it,
he's
earned that max deal. He went from being the last pick in the draft, I think it was the 2011 draft, the last pick, to being the player who was pretty much a franchise player in Boston. I mean, think about it. If Isaiah Thomas wasn't on the Boston Celtics last year or the following year before that, where would they be?
I know. They would be really bad.
There would be no Gordon Hayward. There would be no Al Horford. There would be nothing. The only person that would probably be there right now is the coach.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just giving you Danny Ainge's perspective because, if you think about it, there's also a business side to the NBA, and if you give usually
at the end of the day, it's always business in the NBA.
Usually, if you give a player a max deal at the age of 30 years old, it really doesn't turn out that well. You can ask Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett with the Nets. They gave them a lot of money, multi-year contracts.
See I don't think you can necessarily bring that into this existence, because this topic of conversation is really about a player who was 28. The Celtics didn't want to give them that max deal because I guess the age restriction played into it. These two players had already won that NBA Finals into their 30s. They weren't in their prime, but I guarantee they were one of the top tier players at their position at that time. And we seen probably 2-3 years later, we seen them get traded to the Nets, and then we had this whole drama unfold over there.
Yeah, and then I still think that's one of the worst trades in NBA history. But anyway, that's a discussion for another day. But today, what made the trade finalize was the Celtics added a second-round pick in the 2020 NBA draft to finalize the deal. The Cavs earlier this week wanted Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum into the mix, but the Celtics quickly said, no, we're not getting rid of those two players. Those are our future players. So that's what made the trade finalize today. The Boston Celtics, I will repeat, sent Cleveland a 2020 pick via Miami. So the Miami's 2020 pick.
Second round pick, my fault.
Mm-hmm. Second round pick. And now the deal is done. So in my opinion, I have a question to ask you, Dante. Who do you think won the trade? The Boston Celtics or the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Single-handedly, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, if you think about it, right? They now have a deeper bench, another point guard, and trade bait with these two picks that they have now. So when I say the deeper bench is, remember, they signed Derrick Rose. So now with Isaiah Thomas getting there, that's pretty much going to have Derrick Rose forced to the bench. So now off the bench, you're going to have Derrick Rose as your point guard, Kyle Korver, Richard Jefferson, Channing Frye, Ante Zizic, and you still have Iman Shumpert. And you still have these two picks here that you can use as trade bait. You have pretty much I'm not going to say solidified, but just almost pretty much solidified the number one pick of next year's draft. You can use that as a trade bait easily. Easily you can use that as trade bait. But this is the thing that kind of, lingers in the back of my mind is that, okay, you did all of this. The Cavaliers' new GM, I don't even know his name, did all of this. But let's not forget, they fired Dan Gilbert, and LeBron and the owner still has that rocky relationship. So if you're going to do all of this, what's not the question LeBron isn't going to just pack up his bags and leave next summer?
And this is the point I'm going to add. I disagree with you on this one. I think the Boston Celtics
but if you think
won
about
this
it, though,
trade.
But how, though?
All right, and
here's
how they won.
I want to get my point of view real quick.
All right.
You let go of Isaiah Thomas. You traded away the number one pick, a 2020 second round pick, with Ante Zizic for one player in return.
But that one player is Kyrie Irving, a championship pedigree, and you act like I understand like the Brooklyn Nets pick is going to be a high pick, but
that pick is
in the 2018 draft. Wait.
Mm-hmm.
The Lakers pick. If the Lakers pick falls from 2 to 5, it's Boston Celtics, and if it does not, then they get Philly's 2019 pick in the draft. So they still keep their pick, so they can still get. They still have multiple picks to have in the future. They just gave away Brooklyn Nets. You have to give away a top pick if you want to get a championship point guard in Kyrie Irving to add with Gordon Hayward, Al Horford. The problem I have with the Cavaliers is...
Al Horford is one of the softest players in the league.
I mean, Al Horford showed that he's a good, solid player. He's not great, but he's a good, solid player. Like, he had a lot of clutch shots in that Eastern Conference playoff run the Celtics had. They went all the way to the finals. And
the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, the Eastern Conference Finals, yeah. And in my opinion, I feel like the Wizards should have beaten them, but the Celtics found a way to advance. I feel like the Wizards were the more talented team, but they just didn't execute in the playoffs like a lot of people expected them to. But back to my point.
So I can ask you a question then?
I'm not done yet. Back to my point.
Mm-hmm. Kyrie
Irving has a championship pedigree. He is only 26 years old, and he has 3 years left on his deal. Gordon Hayward signed a multi-year contract in the offseason. So you have young talent that signed multiple years. LeBron has been talking about leaving the Cavaliers in the 2018 free agency, and Isaiah Thomas is a free agent as well. So quickly, like it's sort of like I look at this trade sort of like of the Paul George trade in OKC. It's like a 1-year tryout. If things don't work out, they leave. And then you're pretty much stuck with the Brooklyn Nets pick. And yeah, you can get a top talent in the draft, but you got to remember though, it's Cleveland. If LeBron and Isaiah Thomas leave, no one's going to come from the free agency to the Cleveland Cavaliers when those two guys left. That's why I think, like, I agree, like, I like the trade for both teams, but I think the Boston Celtics won this deal because you get a 4-time All-Star and a champion in Kyrie Irving, and he's staying with you for multiple years.
But
whereas the guys you're leaving,
hold on.
it's only a 1-year deal.
But before you continue into getting all of that, this goes back to when we had your two boys on the show. If it wasn't for LeBron, Kyrie would have never got to the finals. Granted, he hit the big shot for them, but that shot would have never happened if it wasn't for LeBron getting them there and carrying them there. And not only doing that, he brought them back from 3-1.
I mean, Kyrie Irving also did drop 41
in
Game 5. Like
he did.
He like as much as you can
did.
give LeBron the credit, you got to give Kyrie the equal amount of credit because both of them balled out for that series.
I'm not taking no credit away from Kyrie, but we have to be honest here, Josh. If it wasn't for LeBron, the Cavs never would have got there. Kyrie would have never had that trademark shot that he has now.
I mean,
that's pretty much played in almost every NBA commercial we see.
The argument can be said for any player. Like
who?
Like if you think about it, like the Warriors, they lost in the 2016 finals.
And they were eventually. I mean, what were the chances?
Do you think if they didn't add Kevin Durant, would they have won in 2017? I think Cavs could have beaten them again.
I'm not saying that they would have won,
but
I'm pretty sure they would have went right back to the finals.
Yeah, they went right back to the finals, but would they have won the finals? Kevin Durant was just that piece that just elevated.
That's a question that can't be answered because nobody knows because it never happened. So, but the reason why this whole Kyrie thing the reason why I say the Cavaliers won this trade is because, yeah, you give up Kyrie, but what has he proved by himself? And again, this has to go back to that topic we had when your boy, the one that's the Wizards fan, that still owes me money, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Came on the show and asked me, what did Kyrie do by himself? So I'm going to ask you, what has Kyrie done by himself without LeBron?
Oh, I agree. He hasn't really done anything like that, like by himself. But here's the thing, though.
So, hold on. So I got another question
but
to ask
here's
you.
the thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he's going to the Celtics and being his own man. You have Kyrie, you have Gordon Hayward, you have Jason Tatum, you have Jaylen Brown.
But you can't necessarily put Jason Tatum into the mix yet because he's still a rookie. We don't know whether he's going to be a boom or bust. I mean, from what he showed in the NBA for Summer League, that's fine. But there's the reason why they're called the Summer League. That's just players trying to make a team. You don't have solidified starters, solidified players, solidified superstars playing up against him yet. So we don't know how he's going to react when he plays against LeBron. We're not going to know how he's going to react when he plays against Carmelo, Kawhi, Durant, Paul George. We don't know. We just don't know how he's going to play when he plays up against these top-tier players in the league at his position.
I get your point, but I'm just emphasizing my point, though. Like, my point is this. Like, Kyrie Irving is going to be on a team where there's multiple weapons on the team. It's not like it's just going to be him running the team. I
totally get that.
So,
but that's the reason why he wanted out of Cleveland, though, in the first place, was because he wanted to have his own team.
Yeah,
I know you remember that.
Yes, I do remember that.
He specifically said he wants out of Cleveland so he can have his own team. He wants to be the man.
He can still be the man in Boston.
So hold on. You're gonna so you got traded to Boston. Now, pretty much in everybody's mind, you're gonna go there and be the man. Now, how is that gonna fit well with other signee that just came over for the Utah Jazz, Gordon Hayward?
I think they're gonna.
How are they gonna mesh?
I think they're going to gel well together.
But how? Because you have another player that just came from being the man at Utah.
I mean, you can also say the same thing for Isaiah
Thomas.
Thomas.
Are you going to tell? Are you going to tell? But when it comes to LeBron, everybody's willing to take a seat back from LeBron.
I know, but Isaiah Thomas literally had the offense run by him now. Now he's going to have to find a way to adjust to LeBron because now it's going to be LeBron's team and he's got to be the sidekick.
You're right. I absolutely agree with you. But here's what I'm going to throw at you. Last year in the finals, did we or did we not see multiple times LeBron get to the basket and at the very last second dish the ball out? So you mean to tell me Isaiah Thomas, as good of a scorer he is, can't hit that shot?
Oh, I know he can hit that shot. I know he can hit that shot, but he's, in my opinion, I see Isaiah Thomas as more of a player that needs the ball in his hands a lot. Like you saw with Boston, he was able to excel when he was the guy taking the ball up top, setting picks.
If you want to get technical, these two players are the same exact player. They're both players that can't play defense. Very good point guards. Scoring point guards, though. They're both scoring point guards.
Yeah, okay? I agree.
The only thing that really probably you can give more leverage to Kyrie about is he's probably arguably the best finisher at the basket. When he gets to the basket, can't nobody finish like him. And he's more of a better 3-level scorer than Isaiah Thomas is. Because Isaiah Thomas is, 5'8", 5'9"?
Yeah.
And the average point guard is, 6'3", 6'4", 6'2", something like that.
6'2".
Something like that.
That's like the average size. But the good point guards are like 6'3", 6'4".
So, necessarily, to me, they're both the same type of point guard.
Yeah, I agree with you on that statement.
I mean, if you want to categorize point guards by how they are, yeah, if you want to categorize point guards how they are, like you got your traditional point guards, like your, what's his name? Rajon Rondo. You got your George Hills. Then you have your scoring point guards. Then you have your all-around point guards. Your all-around point guard is going to be, you could say, John Wall.
Chris Paul.
Russell Westbrook. And your scoring point guards in the league are going to be Kyrie, Curry,
Isaiah Thomas. Yeah,
So,
I completely agree with your point.
But I mean, it's just now we're gonna have to see. But I just want to prove to you that when it comes to LeBron, any player is willing to take that step back. I don't see why LeBron. I don't see why Kyrie wouldn't. I honestly though, I don't even know where he gets all of this whole thing from. But now we're just gonna have to see how Kyrie is, being what he wanted to be, the man.
I know we just have to wait and see. Got his wish. Now we just gotta wait. But again, like me and Dante each have our opinions. If you guys feel like
so, now that we're talking about this, right? Who has more pressure on them, Kyrie or LeBron?
It's obviously Kyrie Irving, only because he got what he wished for. Now it's time for him to be the top man on the Boston Celtics. Like this, it's not like he's going to be the top man on the Brooklyn Nets or some crappy team. He's going to be the man on a Boston Celtics team that, in many people's opinions, thinks are now the new favorites of winning the Eastern Conference, even though I still think the Cavs are going to win. But still, now he's on that team now, so now the pressure's on him. Whereas LeBron, he's already fulfilled his promise to Cleveland. He's already won 3 championships.
So let me ask you this question then. I'm going to go back a little bit. How you said Boston won the trade, right?
Yes.
But I think Cleveland won the trade. Now, you got to remember, Boston gave up the Brooklyn Nets pick, which is almost solidified to be a top 2 pick because they're just that bad. Who's not to say the Cavaliers aren't going to take that pick, flip it, send the number 1 pick, Shumpert, Tristan Thompson, and a future consideration to the Pelicans for A, Anthony Davis, B, DeMarcus Cousins.
I don't really know.
So now you're going to have a 3-headed monster, possibly 4 if the report is true about what I read about the Bulls buying out Dwayne Wade's contract, so Dwayne Wade can go play with LeBron back in Cleveland. So now that's just going to make your bench even more deeper, because that's just going to force J.R. Smith to the bench. So now off the bench, you're going to have Korver, Smith, Rose, who else?
I get your
Smith,
point, but that's all what if though. We got wait.
And Richard Jefferson.
I get
It's
your
all
point.
a big what if. You're right. It is
a
all
what
big
if. So we just gotta wait and see what happens.
But will Boston still have won that trade if that was to happen?
I mean, that's not a part of the trade though.
You're right. It's not a part of the trade.
Like that's a whole other deal.
You're right. It is a whole other deal. But let's just say that was to happen.
All because of the Celtics trade with the pick.
Are you sure the Celtics will win that trade?
I mean, if that happens, then
because if you ask me,
then I think the Cavs win that one. But if that trade does not happen,
but if you ask me though, the Celtics, well, Kyrie, there was only two teams that really could have traded for Kyrie, and I'm not to be biased to anything. The two teams were A, the Celtics, B, the Sixers. Because if LeBron, I'm pretty sure, I'll probably make a bet. LeBron is leaving after the season. He wants nothing to do with that franchise.
I believe that's one of the reasons why.
That owners probably stabbed him in the back plenty of times. The Dan Gilbert thing. The thing when LeBron left the first time. He wrote that whole message and coming at LeBron's life. Cool. But the reason why, I can't even remember what I was thinking of. I don't even remember what I was trying to get at. I'm sorry. I just had a phone call, and it completely ruined my train of thought.
So you're talking about how LeBron and the ownership, they were bumping heads, and how he wants out in the 2018.
Yeah. So even with doing all of this, to me, really doesn't really mean anything. It's just really setting you up for your future. And the reason why I think the Sixers were a better fit for both teams to win the deal was because the Sixers need that superstar player that they haven't had since Allen Iverson. And pretty much with that happening and LeBron possibly leaving, you're going to have to work towards your future now. So now, in return, you would have probably gotten 3 players with a pick to set you up for your future. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say.
That deal would have had to be.
But as a Sixers fan, I don't want Kyrie. I'm happy with the people we got.
I would have made that trade in a heartbeat. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't have. I'm just sticking to. That's the whole point of the process. We got our guys now. Now it's time for them to develop.
Yeah, you're right.
So anyway, moving on to the next topic, we are going to talk about the NFL. A lot has gone down in the NFL, especially with Colin Kaepernick. My whole opinion with Colin Kaepernick is seeing Jay Cutler get a job in Miami has made me feel like disgusted about the whole Colin Kaepernick, Colin Kaepernick situation, because he's not a bad player. Like, Jay Cutler led the NFL in most turnovers since 2009 or some ridiculous stat like that. And I just feel like Colin Kaepernick is getting snubbed by the GMs all because of his protests. Whether you are for his protest or not, I feel like those protests shouldn't ruin away from his talent.
But what talent does he have?
I mean, it's not. I agree. He's not like a starter talent anymore. I feel like he's a good backup quarterback.
I feel like he was never a starting. I feel like he was never a starting quarterback.
Honestly, can you? I can at least see him as a quarterback for the New York Jets. Like their quarterback situation is awful.
And Colin Kaepernick is just probably as awful as those quarterbacks that are playing for the Jets.
I just think he could at least have a job by now. If Jay Cutler can get a job, he should get one.
But see, the thing that kills me with this, and I'm just going to go on the record and say this. When it comes, sports in general has just become too political. And I'm not one with politics. I don't like to discuss politics. But it's just when you speak of Colin Kaepernick, it turns into politics because of what he did for what he believes in, which I'm not saying is wrong, and I'm not saying it's right. Necessarily, it doesn't really affect me in any type of way. But when it comes to him not getting a job in the NFL, solely, I like to blame that because he's just not a good quarterback. And then people want to hit me with he went to the Super Bowl. Okay, he did go to the Super Bowl. But let's not forget, he had Frank Gore, who was a 1,200-yard back that year, probably. Michael Crabtree, when he was good with San Fran.
And the defense was amazing.
Hold on, I'm trying to get there.
Sorry.
You still had Anquan Bolden, who will probably go down as one of the most
sure-handed catchers.
Sure-handed catchers, but he owned that slot position. Besides Larry Fitzgerald, I don't know any other better slot receiver that was better than him. And that defense was just the number one defense in the league that year. You can make an argument between San Fran's defense that year and Baltimore's defense. So, yeah, he did go to the Super Bowl, but I don't give him all the credit for going to the Super Bowl. And if you want me to give you an instance, Peyton Manning, when he hit the last time he went to the Super Bowl against Carolina, what did he do that game?
Absolutely
he was just
nothing.
a body out there. He was just a body for the quarterback position, and the defense won them that game. Granted, Colin Kaepernick did have some nice plays, did throw a touchdown or two. I can't remember stats off the top of my head, but he's just not a good quarterback. And the reason why I'm pretty sure they preferred to have Jay Cutler, the Miami Dolphins preferred to have Jay Cutler over Colin Kaepernick, is because he's familiar with the system. Adam Gase was was his coach at one point, and it's sad to say, but the year that Adam Gase was his coach was probably the best year he had throughout his whole career. And the thing is, his stats weren't even eye-popping that year. Think that the year Adam Gase was his quarterback, I'm pretty sure his stats were probably a little bit under 4,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. That's nothing to me.
Yeah, that is nothing. Well, I mean, it's decent, but it's not. It's nothing spectacular.
That's just if you ask me. I don't like to get political when it comes to Colin Kaepernick. I'm not a political guy. When you ask me, he's just not a good quarterback in the NFL. He's just not a starter. I just, have you ever watched the movie Scarface?
Yeah, I've seen it.
When the scene when Tony's mom blurts out to him, "You were a bum then and you're a bum now."
Yeah.
Well, Kaepernick was a bum then and he's a bum now. So this whole Colin Kaepernick saga, sorry, it has to go. I'm done talking about it. He's just not a good quarterback. I'm just gonna sum it up to everybody like that. He's just not a good quarterback.
The talent is going south in Colin Kaepernick's game. Anyway, do you want to move on to our next topic?
Well, our next topic has been just rightfully up there with Colin Kaepernick and the whole Ezekiel Elliott thing. I mean, I don't have much. I mean, but all right. Now I'm gonna have to go back to one of our last shows we made.
Yeah, when we talked about him
Zeek,
with the revealing of the breast
like,
on
just,
video.
It's just immature. It's not as being an NFL player, and as much talent as he has, there's no reason for him to do that type of stuff. Like, how old is he? Like a 21? He's 21, 22?
Somewhere around the 23.
He's in his young 20s, early 20s. I'm sorry, and he's still doing stuff like that. You play for the Dallas Cowboys, who is known as America's team. You have little kids looking up to you. You want to set that type of example for these kids? It's okay to go and put on a female shirt to show her breasts in front of everybody? And you're Ezekiel Elliott, so like I said previously before, wherever you go, the cameras and the eyes are going to be on you. So any little mistake that you make, people are going to see it. It's going to be out there. Like, you just have to grow up. You have to realize what you have in front of you. And what you have in front of you is pretty much is just based it's just your whole life what's in front of you. Like I just said, you play for the Cowboys, America's team. You have to make better decisions. You have to lead by example. And doing stuff like that, being immature and doing little dumb teenager stuff like that, that's not going to get you anywhere. It's making you nothing but a problem child.
I agree with you on that one. Ezekiel Elliott, I'm happy that he's suspended 6 games. I hope that, because what we've seen recently with the NFL and their suspensions, it just makes the NFL look bad. So I hope Ezekiel Elliott can at least get some form of discipline for all the actions he has done throughout his career so far, because he had stuff going all the way back to Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Like his junior season, I don't know off the top of my head, but he's had stuff ever since that season, and it's come to the NFL, and it's still being a problem. And I just want to know, do you think his suspension is going to get appealed and he's going to play week 1, or do you think he's not going to play week 1?
That's the thing that just continues to bug me. The NFL is just so bad at making these type of rulings and decisions that they're coming out reports saying he can start week 1, or the suspension is going to be reduced. Like, are you serious? Like, that just automatically brings me back to when the whole Ray Ray situation.
Yeah.
They got video of him punching a female. They only suspended him 2 games. And then it took literally everybody to get this man banned from the NFL.
Yeah, banned from it, yeah.
Like, it's just that bad. It just, like, the NFL is just like mind-boggling. I'm sorry. It's just so, like, it just gets me frustrated how they go about things sometimes.
All right, now we're going to wrap up our podcast. We're going to do a little something different. We're going to do you think we're gonna name a couple NFL teams, and we're gonna give you guys our season predictions over and under. So we're gonna start with we're just gonna do a couple teams this time, but we're gonna start with the Dallas Cowboys. Do you think the Dallas Cowboys will win over 10 games or under 10 games?
Is Zeek in the starting lineup week 1?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say the suspension is going for 6 games.
Under 10 games.
So you think they're going to go under 10?
Yes. The reason why I say that is because Dak Prescott has set a mark last season with his freshman year, with his rookie season play, and I'm pretty sure he's going to hit that sophomore slump. Because now when you think about it, you don't have Zeke behind you. So Zeke to me that Jesus Christ. Well, sorry about that, everybody that just heard that. But getting back to what we were saying, Zeke is that whole offense to me. Without Zeke, really, what is there to do? I mean, you do have Darren McFadden, but he's not Ezekiel Elliott. So, I mean, I honestly think Dak Prescott's gonna hit that sophomore slump. So I'm saying under 10 games.
As much as this makes me sick, I think that the Cowboys will still get over 10 without Ezekiel Elliott, only because you have Dez Bryant, you have that good offensive line.
But where's the chemistry between Dak and Dez?
I mean, we see it towards the end.
You can have Dez Bryant all you want, but if there ain't no chemistry, there ain't no gaining. They can't do. I know. Chemistry is everything. And let's not forget that secondary got worse than what it was last year. They signed Morris Claiborne left. I don't know who else from that secondary left. Okay, but as a replacement, they went and got Nolan Carroll, who was ranked 32nd, according to Pro Football Focus, the 32nd cornerback in the league as a starting cornerback. So all the other starting cornerbacks out there, he was last. That's bad.
I know it's bad, but
So the secondary got worse, and they didn't do anything to help that defensive line. Football is won and lost from the line. So if that line isn't doing anything, you're screwed.
I just still think though that they can get over 10 only because
Now I
if
say
they're able to run the ball.
now I say if
effectively,
Zeek is playing, they get just 10. They get maybe 9, 10. For the simple fact that secondary has no hope, and Dak Prescott is going to hit a sophomore. One of these two players has to hit a sophomore slump. There's no way you can tell me
if they
both
snap,
of these players don't hit a sophomore slump. That's mind-boggling. But one of these players has to hit a sophomore slump, and I can't see it being Zeek because he's just too talented. And that great offensive line he's running behind is just too talented.
All right, moving on.
I got that, like I said, Dak Prescott, sophomore slump.
Sophomore
Without
slump.
Zeke being there,
Said it here
under 10.
before week 1. Dante said Dak Prescott will enter a sophomore slump. Anyway, we're gonna do 3 more teams. So now we're gonna do the Philadelphia Eagles. Do you think they will win over 9 games or under 9 games this year?
Over. That our defense has been addressed. I'm like I said before, I'm a true believer in the game being won and lost at the line. Our defensive line is our front 7 in general is unstoppable. Derek Barnett this preseason, unstoppable. Fletcher Cox, unstoppable. Then Benny Logan left, but Timmy Jernigan, unstoppable. Brandon Graham is in his prime right now. He's playing the best he can, and is pretty much showing off on the field. We just traded for Ronald Darby, and to me, amazing trade. I couldn't take Jordan Matthews no more.
Yeah, and he also got hurt too with the Bills.
Has nothing to do with us now. So I was just tired of the missed drops. He was probably our most consistent receiver that we had the last 3 years, but
it still wasn't.
It just wasn't. He's just not a starting number 1. He's just not a number 1 receiver. But although it is gonna be a hit for our receiving core of him not being there, but we needed to address that secondary and our cornerback play, and I believe we did just that with Ronald Darby.
Yep, I agree with you. I think the Eagles will be 10-6 or 9-7. So I think they will either reach that 9-win mark or go over 9 wins. So we're gonna stick with the NFC East.
I say 10-6 with 11-5 if they beat the Raiders.
Okay. So now here we go. Next, we're gonna do the NFC East this time. The next podcast we'll do a team in the a division in the AFC. Next, we're going to do the Washington Redskins. Do you think they're going to win over 8 games or they're going to go under 8 games?
I'm going to say they're going to go under 8 games. I say under 8. The secondary, the Redskins defense was just never improved. They lost Pierre Garçon. They lost Deshaun Jackson. They did sign Terrell Pryor, but the thing that, really bothers me about Terrell Pryor is, people make the case he had 1,000 yards last year. Cool. He barely made 1,000 yards. That's 1. 2, the Browns were playing from behind a lot. The whole year they were playing from behind. So what does it make whether they hit a 50-yard bomb, but you're still down 20 points in the fourth quarter? Like, that's the thing that affects me about Terrell Pryor. Like, okay. He got a lot of those yardage came in garbage time. So what good does it do? Now, granted, he's a good receiver. Yeah, he's a good receiver. But let's just see how he does with Kirk Cousins. Them pretty much almost going to be in that game every single game. And now he's going to get, number 1 cornerback coverage, which I'm pretty sure he was facing last year. But all of this publicity, publicity that he's getting, and all of this, rave for him. We're gonna see how you do when these number 1 corners play against you. like really actually play against you now.
Yeah, I think the Redskins will just miss their win total.
They
I think
still
they'll go
have
7-9.
no running game. The running back game is just horrific.
I can't agree with you on that one. I think they have some form of running game. I forget who the name is. I think his last name's Kelly.
Rob Kelly?
Yes, he showed some promise as well as the other back. I can't.
I mean, if you take, but Rob Kelly,
because he killed the Eagles when
he did, but when you look at the second half season stats, he completely fell apart. It was just it just seemed like another case of like, okay, we have this guy, nobody has film on him, so we're just gonna let him run himself to the ground for as long as he could, produce for as long as he could. Then once the film gets out on him, well, we're shit out of luck. You got Chris Thompson, but he's more of that receiving back.
Okay, and we're going to move on to our last team, the New York Giants. Do you think they will go win over 9 games or win under 9 games?
They will go over 9 games.
Yeah, I agree too. I think adding Brandon Marshall and adding to that receiving core and their defense is still really good, still pretty elite. I think they'll go 10-6.
I think they'll go 11-5.
Or 11-5. Yeah, that's what I was about to add.
I think they'll go 11-5. I mean, they got Brandon Marshall now, who will give Odell those 1-on, because you necessarily can't go. You necessarily can't double Odell now with Brandon Marshall across him, well, lined up opposite of him. They drafted that rookie tight end Evan Ingram. They still got Shepard, who's a pretty good slot receiver. Still got that pretty tough defense. The thing that affects the Giants is the line and the running game. Well, necessarily the line, because if you can't block for Eli Manning, then he's gonna have pressure the whole game. And necessarily when there's pressure to the quarterback the whole game, necessarily means your running game can't get going. So which is gonna force these receivers and Manning to try and make plays consistently all year. Yep. Which I necessarily do think they can do it. Because Eli Manning has proved he can make plays. Odell, who is a top 3 receiver. Brandon Marshall, who will be in the Hall of Fame one day. You got, like I said, you still have Shepard,
who
slot. Produced a whole lot last year for you. And you have this rookie tight end who's supposed to be something.
Yeah, he's supposed to be really good.
So I'm gonna give them 11-5.
Okay. So now, anything else you want to talk about? Or are you ready to wrap up our first podcast of sophomore year?
You ready to wrap this up, brother?
Yeah, I'm ready to wrap this up. But real quick, before we end things, over the summer I have made a website. It's, you literally just go on your phone. It's called swooppodcast.com. You guys will see our latest podcast, blog posts from me and Dante. Dante, I still need to get your information for the website. But you're gonna see our social media. You can follow us at social media there. Everything's gonna be on the website. We have a link for you guys to subscribe, like our videos, and as well as comment to our videos. So just go on www.swooppodcast.com.
Yep.
And this is Josh signing off. This is Josh and Dante signing off. My bad.
Sorry about
Swoop!
That. Swoop!